It's the last day of the year, so I thought it would be a good time to recap 2019 and share my top 10 photos that I made this year. A lot goes into making a good photo, but it's always interesting for me to see from other photographers what they consider their favorite or their best work from that year. Sometimes a photographer's favorite photo might not be their best photo, but they have their own personal reasoning and connection behind it that makes it one of their favorites, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I don't know if these are my best photos that I've made this year, but they're definitely 10 of my favorites. This first photo is a photo of me and my daughter Nora on my back. I made this pretty early in the year. I shot this with my M6, obviously, as you can tell, and I shot this on Ilford HP5. Nora turned 4 this year in May, and she's on the autism spectrum, and she is constantly wanting to be spinning or swinging or climbing, jumping. She's a very physical kid, and most of the time she is riding around on my back or on my shoulders while we're at home. And I shot this in our dining room, just in the mirror there. Anytime I'm taking photos, I want to try to include myself in some of the photos of my family. Obviously, my wife does take some photos of me with the kids, but more often than not, I'm always the one taking the photos. And I always think about these photos as the kids get older and whenever they have their own kids, and being able to look back at these and share these kind of memories. I want to make sure that I'm present in there. Obviously, I took the photo and they can, explain that, but I want to be as present as I can in the photos. So anytime there's a reflection, a mirror, a shadow even, I try to include little pieces of myself in some of these photos for their own sake and for their future kids' sake. But I love this photo just for both of our expressions. It's in our dining room. This is the house I grew up in, and now my kids are growing up in there. And I know we're not going to be there forever, so it's fun to just include little pieces of it in some of the photos. This next photo is a photo of my friend Brad. I shot this inside the old Roast Coffee location, and there's an entire video that I made about this shoot that we did. I used a Holga and a roll of Ilford Delta 3200, so I'm not going to go into full detail really because there's an entire video that you can check out for that, but I really just liked how these turned out. I love the look of that Holga lens, the way it's really just kind of vignetting with the lighting that we used. It's one of my favorite portraits I've made this year and probably just ever. I really was happy with a lot of these. That Ilford Delta 3200, when it's underexposed, it has that kind of like charcoal, almost graphite, pencil-like kind of texture to it, and I've just always really been happy with this one. This shot of Carl's townhouse is definitely a favorite. I had a roll of Portra 400 in my M6 loaded up for the Voigtlander Ultron review, and I just happened to walk across Carl's, which Carl's always looks good. It's just a classic diner in downtown Chillicothe. It always photographs really well, but on this particular day, it was just a bright sunny day, blue skies, and there was this really old red truck. I mean, like bright red, candy red paint, and I just loved the way that looked. If this were any other truck, it probably wouldn't have worked as well, but the rare occasion that I was walking around with a roll of Portra 400, a color film in my M6, that's pretty rare, and I just happened to walk across at the right time, and I just love the way this looks. It feels like a photo that's much older than it really is, so I'm really happy with this one. This next photo is a photo of Elliot getting a haircut. This was pretty early in the year. I shot this with my M6 and a roll of T-Max 3200. He was going through a period where he absolutely hated getting haircuts, and then he warmed up to them, and now we're back in the stage where he hates haircuts again. But it's just this classic kind of childhood photo. I think a lot of kids go through this where they hate getting haircuts. It's a pretty common thing, and just his expression in this photo, that's kind of why I like it so much, because it's just a relatable thing. But his face in this photo, he's like looking directly at me as I'm taking the photo, and it just has this like desperation look on his face, which is pretty comical, also kind of sad, but mostly comical. But I really just liked kind of the composition and the framing of it, with him in the bottom left corner there and Molly's arm kind of arching over, and she's almost got this claw-like posture with her hand like holding his head in place. It made me think of the claw machine from the Toy Story movies, but I've just always really liked this one. It's classic childhood. Another one here from home. This is Nora in the backyard. She is in her element when she is in the backyard and covered in dirt. Anytime there's dirt or mud around, you can guarantee she's going to be playing in it. Absolutely in her element there, but I love the expression there. Just so happy with her face just absolutely caked in dirt, hair is a mess, blowing all over the place, but I love the expression. I love the light, the backyard there. This makes me feel like summertime at home. I love this one. That was shot on my M6 with Ilford HP5, and similarly enough, the next one is also from the backyard. This was with the Pentax 6.7 and Lomo 800. Elliot spraying Nora with the hose. She absolutely loves that, and I just love the rain boots they're wearing, the color of everything. It was a nice sunny day in the middle of summer. The dogs in the background there, everything about this just screams summer to me, and that's the kind of stuff I'm always looking for when I'm taking photos of the kids. It's just things that are going to remind me of everyday life at home. I don't want to only photograph the really big spectacles or the milestones or anything like that. I want to make good photos that really remind the kids of their childhood and what reminds me of spending time with them. Some more Lomo 800. I shot a lot of that film this year. This is a photo just in an alleyway downtown in Chillicothe. I've probably shot this exact photo 100 different times, but I was really, really happy with this one just for the color itself. It honestly reminds me of a painting. From the clouds in the sky there to the dark shadows in the alleyway, the dynamic range on this was just insane. Everything is really like pleasingly balanced, I think. I just really, really like this one. I think this one we're going to print pretty big here for the fort. Outside of my office, this hallway here that connects all of the different offices, we're wanting to do a bunch of different prints of Chillicothe lining this hallway, and this is one that's kind of at the top of our list that we want to print pretty big for the hallway. Some more Lomo 800. I'm actually going to cheat here and have two photos right here because I kind of shot these to go side by side. So the first photo is this faraway shot of the All-American Pig Racing at the fair. The second we walked into the county fair, I saw this and I was like, yep, there's the first photo I'm going to shoot. You have this trailer here with this crowd of people all watching the pigs racing, and I love the big All-American Pig Racing sign behind what seems to be possibly every U.S. flag that was at the fair that week. They put them all at this one location, and then the next photo over is actually more of a close-up shot of people watching the pigs racing. So I got a shot of the pigs running, but I really liked the foreground there where it was this little girl with the pigtails watching the pigs racing and her dad kneeling down next to her. I just really liked the colors here, the pigtails. It just felt like this classic family snapshot that it was someone else's family and not my own for a change. Also at the fair, I shot this photo of Elliot, Molly, and Nora, and even though Molly and Nora are just kind of in the background a little bit, out of focus, and really at the edge of the frame, that was kind of by intention. We were at the county fair, a lot of sounds, a lot of moving things, a lot of lights. It was just really overwhelming for her, and she was just getting really frustrated, start to have a meltdown, and that's, you know, pretty typical for her. And Elliot, he was in the wagon that we were pulling the kids around in, and he was just being so patient, and he was just kind of like off to the side, just kind of like leaning on his arm in the wagon, and Molly was holding Nora, just trying to kind of, you know, console her and calm her down. And Elliot was just waiting patiently, as he always does. He's such a good kid and is so patient with her. And he was like just pointing off in the distance at whatever it was he wanted to go see as he was waiting. And it was just sort of like a look at everyday life for us in a lot of situations, anytime we're in a setting like that. And it just really kind of stood out to me, and that's why I wanted to shoot that photo. Even though it's not necessarily like a really happy photo. It looks kind of sad in a way, but it's just real life, and that's the kind of stuff I wanted to shoot. And Elliot just being so patient and calm in the middle of all of that, that's what I was really kind of drawn to. He's such a good kid. It's awesome. And I mean, I love the color and all that stuff. Yeah, that's great, but it was really just, it was about that particular moment for me. I'm really, really proud of my son, if you can't tell. Okay. Almost started crying. Let's go to the next one. I shot this photo of Molly with the Pentax 6.7 and Cinestill 800T. I also did a video about that trip in general and, you know, kind of sharing my photos from it. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link that down below as well. But I shot a roll of 800T in my Pentax in this bathroom. I shot the whole roll in this bathroom. We were staying at Mohican's Castle, where every suite is kind of modeled after different time periods and castles and that kind of stuff. And the bathroom had this really awesome floral wallpaper and this old mirror, and as soon as I saw it, I wanted to shoot in there, and I happened to bring some 800T, so I was pretty excited about that because I think up to that point, I'd never shot 800T in 120. I'd only shot it in 35mm. So I shot that entire roll in that bathroom under the tungsten lighting, and I was pleasantly surprised at just how clean everything came out. Skin tones and everything, like everything just looks really, really clean, but I just am happy with this photo all around. From the color to the composition, the pose that she was doing, just staring very blankly into the mirror. I was just really, really happy with this one. But again, I won't go into full detail. There's a whole video about that. You can check that out. And finally, the last photo is actually one that I made just a couple of months ago in another YouTube video. I did shooting the Pentax 6.7 out in the fog. I wasn't planning on making photos that day, but I happened to leave the house and it was really foggy and it just looked incredible, so I decided to go shoot, and I made a video about it as well, so you can check that one out. But shooting with the Pentax over here at this church is really close to our house, and anytime I see it, I've always liked the look of it. It's just so classic looking, but it always reminds me of home because it's just so close to our house. Anytime I see photos of it, it just makes me think of home. And I've never actually stopped to shoot photos there. People photograph it all the time around here just because it is such a just classic looking church, but I happened to stop there that day because with the fall color and the fog, it just looked absolutely perfect. And I really like the way it was framed up. I kind of had these two big trees at the very edge of each side of the frame, so that way they're kind of like boxing and framing everything in naturally. And then the cross there as well, I wanted to frame that up nicely in the negative space in the sky above the church before the leaves from the trees kind of started creeping in. So I crouched down so that way you could actually see the cross up there, and with all the leaves and everything, again, the fall color, the fog, it just made me think of home. I was just overall really happy with this one. But that's it. Those are my favorite photos of 2019. That could change next week if I decide to look through photos again. It's always changing my opinions on photos that I've taken. Sometimes I really like a photo, and then as time goes on, I grow a little less attached to it, whereas other photos I maybe just completely glossed over and didn't even take a second look at. Years later, they'll become photos that I really like. So this could all change, but as of right now, these are my favorite photos I made this year. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this in the comments down below. Maybe I had a photo that I shared here on YouTube or Instagram and you thought that photo should have been on this list. If so, definitely let me know. But I'd love to hear about how 2019 was for you guys within photography. It's fun to look back at the year and just see what you did in the year, but it's easy to get discouraged if you start comparing it to years past and you think, well, 3 years ago I had a much better overall year than I did this year, so maybe I'm getting worse. But I don't think that's the case. I think with photography and a lot of different creative outlets, it's a lot of peaks and valleys. You know, it comes and goes. Sometimes you're in a creative rut for months and you don't feel inspired, you don't feel creative, but then all of a sudden something will change and it's like all you do is see photos that you need to make and you feel really inspired and fulfilled from it. And you just kind of have to ride the wave, I think. You know, it all comes and goes for a lot of people. I've personally had time frames this year where I was really inspired and then it was just like with the blink of a drop of a hat. All of a sudden, I'll just lose all inspiration and I just won't feel like shooting anything for weeks at a time. And that's just part of the game, I think. So I'd love to hear how 2019 was for you guys creatively, whether it be photography or anything else. I'm assuming you're into photography if you're watching these videos, but I'd love to hear how 2019 was for you guys. Again, I really want to take a minute to thank you guys for all the support you've shown me all these years, not just 2019, but for the last 5 years that I've been here on YouTube. Earlier in the year, I set the goal to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I really didn't think I would hit that. It was just something to kind of strive for, but just a couple of weeks ago, we finally surpassed that, so I really do appreciate all the support you guys have shown me. It really does mean the world. So that's it for today and for the year. So if you're new here, I have new videos every single Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if this is the kind of stuff you'd like to see, then definitely subscribe to the channel. But yeah. That's it for today. So thank you guys for everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Next year. Horrible, horrible joke.